Joining us now with reaction is the former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Monica Crowley, along with Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Thank you both for joining us. Monica, I want to talk mostly about the economy because that affects everybody. But for the President of the United States to personally pick up the phone and talk to a nurse at a hospital to do a favor for a friend, I don't know how that strikes most people. But if I'm in that waiting room and somebody's getting preferential treatment because they're a buddy of Joe's, it seems odd to me.
This is your ruling class in action, always with a point of privilege, right? It was very weird for Joe Biden to blurt that out and make that admission because it made him look really bad. I mean, we are still in the middle of a pandemic and people are struggling. And he's saying, hey, look, I elbowed my friend and his wife to the front of the line. I also would love to know how many people in that particular hospital system have been laid off or fired because they refused the vax, therefore creating a huge backlog due to short staffing.
Yeah, and Joe, look, the president tried to put a big spin on the jobs numbers because they were horrific. They were nowhere close to where they were supposed to be. But part of the problem in the White House is you've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They're both poor communicators, and they never take any questions. And then when they do talk off script, you get something like this, which causes its own uproar.
It's the worst messaging I've seen, Jason, and you could go back and study this stuff in the modern political era. And to blame COVID, as Jen Psaki did, it's like it's all they have. Did COVID force us to withdraw from Afghanistan in the disastrous way that we did? Of course not. Is COVID causing the border to be wide open where actually COVID positive migrants are flooding into the country? Of course not. Is COVID causing skyrocketing crime in American cities? Of course not. Is COVID causing skyrocketing inflation? Of course not. And thanks of all these lies, and that's the proper word to use here, lies, that the president and his chief handlers like Psaki have tried to sell to the American people. Like in August, job creation missed expectations by 500,000 jobs, 500,000. In September, it missed by another 300,000. And there the president is out there saying the job report shows progress. That is gaslighting with dynamite marinated in kerosene. He also claimed that $3.5 trillion in spending cost $0.0, that it will somehow cut taxes while inflation is almost sure to continue rising, that it will reduce the debt. All lies. And for anyone with ears, eyes, and a halfway functional brain, these arguments are about the best unintentional comedy you'll hear, except the president is as serious as a heart attack when he is making them. And this is where we are now at this point. You're right about the messaging. It is lying, and it is deceptive, and it is intentional.
Now, Monica, you've been up close and personal with the White House along the way. I mean, part of the problem is you have a Kamala Harris who's nowhere to be seen. She's just literally flying to Palm Springs when they're trying to do, critical things with the United States Congress. But the cabinet's nowhere. I mean, we've got this major problem with shipping off the shores. You've got offload of shipments that are coming into these ports and no trucks to go underneath these containers. Where's Pete Buttigieg? I mean, their cabinet is pretty well absent from the discussion.
Well, their labor secretary was out today to talk about this abysmal jobs report and trying to spin it, as was the president. But overall, Jason, you're exactly right. Look, the vice president wants as much distance between herself and these catastrophes as possible. She's trying to preserve her own political viability. So whether it comes to the economy or the border or the whole array of things that Joe Biden has given to her for her plate, she doesn't want to deal with it. She is not out there publicly. In fact, the latest video, she was talking to some kids about space exploration, which is not exactly on the top of most Americans' lists of things. But the rest of the cabinet, you're exactly right. They have hightailed it away from all of these controversies. They know that this presidency is in free fall. They can see the president's poll numbers cratering. And now you even have the press, at least some of them, starting to report on the faltering economy and some of these other things because they can't ignore it. But make no mistake, when the press reports this stuff, like, for example, CNN today talking about how bad these jobs numbers are, they're not doing it because they want to see Joe Biden fail. They're doing it as a warning to the White House that they better start getting their act together, particularly on the economy, because most Americans do vote on kitchen table issues.
And Joe, nothing says, hey, let's fight inflation by throwing a few $1 trillion into the economy and spend more by government. I mean, I don't know where they're at with their messaging on this, but that is not the remedy to solve the problems that are ahead of us.
Yeah, a little removed from Econ 101, but I'm pretty sure that if you print $3.5 trillion of new money and put it into the economy, that may devalue the dollar a little bit. And we're already at a 30-year high on core inflation. So if this spending bill gets passed, and even if it gets shaved down, what do you think's going to happen to the economy? To Monica's point, that's what people vote on first. But three big takeaways from the president's polls when you peel away the onion. All right, so Republicans are overwhelmingly against the president, of course. Democrats, about 80% are still with him. So they kind of cancel each other out. I always look at independents, Jason, because they're the people that decide elections in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, Georgia, so on. 32% of Americans approve of this president, less than 1 in 3. Think about that. That's just 9 months into office. That's a hockey season. And a solid majority of voters now believe the administration as a whole, Jason, is not competent running the government. That's a very difficult impression to undo. But finally, on the economy, he is polling below 40%. On the border in Afghanistan, he's polling in the 20s. Crime is a huge issue as well.
Yeah.
Is it more expensive to live in this country? Yes. Is it less safe? Yes. Is the border secure? No. Is Afghanistan a threat with the reemergence of al-Qaeda and ISIS? Yes. You tell me how he's going to fix those 4 big issues when he's never communicating outside of a teleprompter. It ain't going to happen unless somebody else is doing the communicating. I guess that's Jen Psaki, who is now the face of this administration. Congratulations.
Yeah, that is core to the problem is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have bad judgment, but they're also poor communicators. Monica Crowley, Joe Concha, thank you both for joining us tonight.